about 7:45, and that bird flew down and shut up, which has been pretty much the case of every bird that we've heard gobble in the morning. We assume that he has hens with him. Yesterday, we saw a couple hens leaving him, and generally what these birds are doing is they're roosting down along the creek or in bowls where these little washes run down to the creek. The birds are not going up for the most part right off the bat in the morning. As you can see behind me, there's some pine trees back there, and those pine trees just don't really have the food sources that the creek bottoms do. So what they generally do is work down towards the creek, and they'll kind of hang out there in the first thing in the morning, and we figure that that's what this bird's doing. Like I said, he only gobbled a few times, probably 5-10 times, I guess, and then we assume he's working down in this creek bottom, so we're going to try to get down, move up on him a little bit. We think we can walk this drainage down towards the creek and hopefully get set up to where they're going to work their way to later on in the morning. We think that they came up somewhere in front of us, probably about 100 yards yesterday morning. So if we make that move and get up there, there's a good chance that they'll probably do the same thing again today. We're walking up this drainage towards where that bird was roosted this morning. We set up over here on the other side of this little ridge that comes down. There's two washes that basically come together at the end of this point and run down in the main creek down to my right. There's tracks all up and down this wash going back and forth to that creek bottom. So this is definitely where they're traveling. We've just been sneaking around this point, trying to hear these birds scratching or drumming, but this is something that keeps paying off for us, is doing these little sneaks through where we think these birds are moving, because we can find little areas like this where they're definitely coming through consistently. I would say that these birds are probably roosting there most of the time, because the amount of tracks going back and forth right here are just telling us that this is, definitely an area where they're going through. So probably tonight or in the morning, we'll be back here, hopefully trying to catch them going back to roost.
It's interesting. We just got back to camp here. It's midday, and this is Zach's turkey that he just shot last night. We're fixing to cook him on the grill right now for lunch, but we got to looking around in his craw and found something pretty interesting. This is Zach Fehrenbaugh's bird. He killed him last night, and this turkey has had hens nonstop for the last few days, and hardly anything is in his craw. There's just a few acorns in there, a few pieces of green leaf matter or whatever. But point is, he's been spending all his time during the day strutting around hens and focusing on breeding. In contrast, the bird that Zach Kurzieski killed a few days ago did not have any hens. And what he was doing right before he came to roost was scratching around feeding on acorns, and that was evident when we opened his craw. It was plumb full of acorns and stuff. That turkey had been feeding all day long, doing what turkeys do. But that's something to keep in mind. Right now, these turkeys are very henned up. The dominant birds, like the one Zach Fehrenbaugh killed last night, are spending their entire day strutting around hens. So, as you're creeping through the woods, you need to be listening for drumming. And that's how we actually found this turkey yesterday before he gobbled. An hour before he even gobbled, we could hear him up in there drumming every 10-15 seconds. And after looking at his craw, it's obvious that he hasn't been eating hardly anything. That's all he's doing all day long. His wingtips are worn plumb down already, and it's early in the season. So keep that in mind. The dominant turkeys, they're going to spend all day long strutting. So that's the sound that you need to be listening to in the woods. They're not going to gobble much when they got all those hens. So you need every advantage you can get. So be listening for that drumming sound.
We're right back in here where we were earlier this morning. We found all that sign coming up from that main creek into this little creek bottom draw here. We think the birds are going to be roosting behind us. We found a bunch of really good trees back there. What's been paying off for us when these birds aren't gobbling has been scouting mid-morning. If we hear a bird, we try to backtrack them to their roosting area. And in the process of doing that, we found a lot of sign leading right up to this roosting area. So hopefully we can make it 3 nights in a row down here in Mississippi. Well, there for a minute, thought we were going to have the same thing that we had happen last night. He did not roost in the same spot as he did last night, but the good news is he's gobbling his head off, and we know right where he's at. The main creek runs down in front of us, and we're pretty sure he's right along that. So we figure he's probably 300 yards away or so. We can sneak down in front of us really easily in the morning. We can probably get close to 100 yards away from him, if not even a little closer than that. Sounds like he's by himself. If we'd have been a little bit closer and we even talked about potentially just running up there, it might have worked. We might have been 3 nights in a row, but like I said, good news is I think we can get close to him in the morning, and if he's by himself, he's in trouble.
He's still gobbling.
He's still gobbling.